Welcome into a playoff edition of River Valley Touchdowns. We had a lot of teams in action Friday night, and here we are on Monday, Brad, and there's still a lot of them left to roll. It's not wasn't the greatest of weekends for some of our local teams, but some folks still got some games left to play.
Yeah, we still have looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? 5 teams still left in the playoffs in the area, and again, we've talked about it all year long about how this has been a pretty good year for area teams. We had 6 home games, 2 area teams played each other in the games, and then we had a couple go out this week. Actually, we had 3 go out this week, but still, out of 8 area teams in the first round, we've got 5 left, and we've got a big round of games coming up again this next week.
Well, Brad, you got to watch this last week St. Mary's Regional Health System Game of the Week. The Lamar Warriors take down the Atkins Red Devils, and, man, what a game it was.
That was a great game. It was a very hard-hitting game. 2 teams that they acted like they didn't like each other a whole lot.
Imagine that.
But, really 2 similar teams and just very very evenly matched. It was just a very evenly matched ball game. A lot of fun to be at that ball game, and I'm sure that we'll talk a little bit more about it, and they'll get a chance to see those highlights as well.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a look at the scoreboard because we had our Bringus Steakhouse scoreboard. We had, as we mentioned, several games that took place on Friday night, and some of them went the way you would have expected, and some of them just didn't. And we'll get to that momentarily. But Danville beat Yellville Summit 55-12, a good win for the Little Johns to open up the playoffs. It seems like, Brad, that schedule that they played that was so tough is starting to pay off.
It is. Danville's been a good team all year long. They lost 3 games to teams that I can't remember what the combined record was, but Lamar has 2 losses. Mayflower and Glen Rose had 1 loss. So 4 losses combined were your losses with Danville. Danville, unfortunately, doesn't get the luck of the draw. And that's the thing that, of course, I know that Danville's not going to be scared going into Smackover, but this is the number 1 team in 3A. So you're going to get a chance to test your mettle. And, look, Danville hung 55 points. I promise you this much. Smackover is not going to be happy to see the Little Johns come into town.
No, that's another thing. When you're playing a team that's may have some losses, but you look at their schedule and you're like, well, I see why. Now you see the teams that they've played and you think, well, crap, now we got to play against a team who's much better than their record. I'd rather play a team that was inflated rather than one whose record was deflated. So that's a good win for Danville. We'll talk more about that one later on. Morrilton survives Little Rock Parkview 28-26. Brad, we'll talk about that one, but you mentioned how close of a game that could be with how well Little Rock Parkview was going to be coached, and it's exactly how it turned out. Dardanelle Jonesboro Westside, 31-22 win for the Sand Lizards. They were able to overcome what was a dynamic rushing attack that Jonesboro Westside threw at them. Another one we'll talk greater detail about later on. Little Rock, Pulaski Robinson, I guess they're just going by, what are they going by, Robinson High School now?
Robinson.
They changed it up. 48-12 winners over Pottsville. Kind of one we saw coming a little bit, so to speak, but Robinson, a very good team. Pottsville was able to make playoffs, and hey, after the stuff that they've had going as far as ups and downs and ins and outs of their program and the things happening in their school, with Drake and all these different things that could have potentially derailed their season, to make the playoffs, nothing to sneeze at for them. Lamar, like as we mentioned, 28-24 winners over Atkins in the game of the week. But the one that just makes me shake my head a little bit, Brad, double overtime loss for the Russell Cyclones to Sylvan Hills, 31-29. Sylvan Hills takes the win over Russellville here in Russellville in the playoffs. And Sylvan Hills was 3-7.
Yeah, and we got Bill Harshaw, who had eyes on that game. He's going to come in to talk about it about 1:30. Just looking at the highlights of the game, didn't look like Sylvan Hills was a 3-7 type of ball club. I don't know exactly how their season had went throughout, but I know that they played Searcy pretty tough coming into the game. I said last week that Searcy and Russellville were very similar teams. That proved to be the point there. Also, one thing to point out is that there are only 2 West teams left, and it's the 2 that got buys. The East won every game. Now, they were pretty close all the way through, but the East won every game that against the West. So that I guess it shows that at least in the 3 through 6 range, the East had a little better of a conference than the West did this year.
I've heard that, and I don't remember who it was, so I don't want to give somebody credit or blame when I'm talking about this, but I've heard somebody say that the West always, brags a little bit more about how their conference is tougher and they are better, and it sounds like the East kind of heard that and said, you know what, we'll have this week.
And typically, you go all the way down the line, really, when it comes to it. The West plays better football usually than the East. Now, in the bigger schools, especially the 7A, that is actually kind of flipped a little bit. The Central is now the better of the two conferences between the West and the Central. The West had won like 12 or 13 state championships in a row, but you go all the way down. The West is usually dominant, but it seems to be flipping a little bit. And, of course, you've got more of the physicality in the West versus the athletes in the East, and that seems to be taking over a little bit.
Unfortunately for Russellville, it's a rough way to lose and finish your season at home. Yeah. They had the nice pep rally Friday night or Thursday night. They did all these things leading up to the game, and you got a home game in the playoffs. And I'm interested to hear what Bill has to say, but following the game just a little bit, it sounded like Sylvan Hills went for 2 in overtime and got it, and then Russellville scored a touchdown, didn't get the 2. So that's a rough way to lose, a rough way to go out. Going to be lots of questions and things that need to be answered all around. It's high school sports, but there's a little business to it as well.
Yep, there is. It's going to be an interesting offseason there at Russellville, no doubt about that. Questions will abound, but those questions are now answered, at least in some cases. We've got highlights of that game for those that are interested. We'll be playing those here very shortly, but. Yeah, for the Cyclones, it's a tough way to go out, no doubt about it.
And speaking of business, we will break a little bit of news to you for those of you who are watching live. It appears, and now 4 or 5 different people have told me and tried to confirm to me that Arkansas Tech has fired head coach Raymond Monica. So the football team will be looking for a new coach to lead them going into the 2019 season. That stinks because I really like Coach Monica. He's a nice guy. I've talked to him multiple times, and he's always been gracious and nice. But Arkansas Tech relieves him of his duties this year. He's 39-40 in 6 years. And Brad, I know this is a high school football show, but a lot of these guys end up at Tech because locals. Right. We've got locals all over the place. Matter of fact, Cade Folsom played for Russellville, and then goes to Arkansas Tech. Started the first game at quarterback, and then it ended up Tanner Gaines played a little quarterback from Hector. So we got some local flavor there, and 39-40 in a 3-8 season. At this level, it kind of gets you done.
Well, and I mean, we've been sitting here talking about it all morning long. That you got to throw the kitchen sink, at
Brent
Dearman. I mean, you've got to throw the kitchen sink at him, and he came in, he lit the offense up for Tech. And now he's at Bethel. He's lighting it up over there. Yeah. He's got to be the first phone call. Of course, I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, how people felt about each other. That plays into a factor into it. But if I'm the AD, my first call, Brent Dearman.
Yeah, I'm biased on this. I'll just go ahead and say it out front. I'm biased. I love Coach Dearman. He was my former neighbor, lived across the street from me. Our kids play together. So if they call him and he comes back to Russellville, it would be amazing. I don't know about that. I did ask him his thoughts on it. He said he didn't think they'd call him, but if they don't call him, another head needs to roll. We'll put it that way. If they don't at least call him, because he, 9-3, 6-5, 8-4, his 3 seasons at Arkansas Tech, and they ended up with a great offense. Obviously, that 9-3 year, and I know this is a high school show. We'll get on after this, and then they got in. Quarterback last year, Ty Reasoner, who was great. He was the all-everything scholar athlete. So not only was he one of the best players in the country as a quarterback, but he was a scholar athlete of the year across the entire division. So that was a big deal for them to have him on campus. And then, Coach Dearman parlayed that into, and we are making an advertisement for him, parlayed that into a head coaching job at his alma mater in Bethel, Tennessee. But
where they're lighting the world on fire.
They beat the number 2 team in the country their first game of the year. They're 10-0 right now.
I know they've scored 92 one time and 70 once.
You think Arkansas Tech and Russellville wouldn't love having a 92-point team out here? He's a stud.
There's just if he comes to Tech, if it works out, he won't be here very long. So that may be something that plays into it. this guy is one of those guys that's on another level.
Can we give another plug while we're at it?
Give it.
I mean, we're just telling them who to hire.
Sure.
I know who you should probably hire as maybe an offensive assistant in some way. Weldon Braxton, Itasca Community College there in Minnesota. He's a former Arkansas Tech. He's an Arkansas Tech grad. He's doing well there with a team that was 0 when he got there, and now they made the playoffs, and he's turned that program around. He went from offensive line coach to offensive coordinator to head coach.
Yep.
So there you go. Free plug for my buddy Weldon, who used to host the Sports Blitz with me when Brad bailed on me and just went and got, big time and went on to Huntsville and did some radio. So anyway, back to high school sports. We probably need to take a break and cut out all that. No, this is live. So we're going to hit a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about these games in greater detail. We'll go back through the Brangus Steakhouse scoreboard, but we've got more on the St. Mary's Regional Health System Game of the Week, Lamar taking down Atkins right after this break. A proud supporter of the Russellville Cyclones and all the local student athletes who make sports in the River Valley so great, Randy Adkins of Adkins & Associates wants to wish the best of luck to all the local teams and say, Go Cyclones!
Brangus Steakhouse is a locally owned business serving the River Valley and visitors since 1995. Offering steaks, ribs, chicken, burgers, and salads, there's something for everyone. Brangus is proud to serve only choice steaks and offers a kids menu as well as daily specials. Check them out on Facebook by searching Brangus Steakhouse. And if you're up for a real challenge, see if you can tackle the 4-pound steak, which is free if you can eat it within an hour. Brangus Steakhouse, open Monday through Saturday at 1509 East Main in Russellville.
Make that short drive to Russellville and see why so many people are buying the right way. At Phil Wright Autoplex in Russellville, hurry in for incredible savings like up to $12,000 off the 2018 GMC Yukons and up to $8,000 off the 2018 GMC Acadias. Ride in comfort in the GMC 2018 Terrains with up to $7,500 off. Hurry in for $14,500 off the 2018 GMC Sierras. Phil Wright Autoplex is the right place to buy, and there's a reason why we've been awarded the best auto dealership in the area for up to 9 years straight. Exit 84, just off 540, Russellville.
Welcome back into River Valley Touchdowns Playoff Edition. This is free for you guys. Well, this was not even anything we had in the early on thoughts, Brad, about doing this show. We knew we were going to get through those 11 weeks of the regular season, but here we are with local teams left in the playoffs, so we figured it was only right for us to feed that appetite for these these loyal fans who are watching and listening.
Yep, and we love to do Friday night stuff. It's just there's just stuff going on right now that we weren't able to do it, but here we are on Monday, and I feel like we can give you a little bit more of a complete show. And it sure is nice not to have to rush around so much on Friday nights.
Yeah.
If you saw sometimes what we were doing, I mean, sometimes just if you see me over here on the computer, I'm literally putting together a highlight package as we're talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's nice to just be able to come in here, talk about this stuff, and not have to worry so much about getting stuff out.
Absolutely. We're just talking ball. We're just talking about football. And Brad was on the scene Friday night in Lamar as the Warriors took down the Atkins Red Devils. It was a great game, Brad. It was kind of what we expected as far as both of these teams, both offensively minded. It was a low-scoring game. I said I wouldn't have been surprised if it was in the 30s. It ended up being just shy of that. Both teams a little rusty, but I think part of that is the fact that these teams are so similar and they know each other well enough from being close in proximity that it was just a great game all around. Nobody who went to that game Friday night left feeling cheated.
Well, one thing that I will say is that there wasn't a bunch of quick scoring drives. They were both making each other earn that. And I think Atkins probably has a little bit more of a quick strike offense than what Lamar has. And so Atkins would have been expected maybe to bring out a little bit more of the quick strike. But, man, Lamar just pads a popping, man. They brought the physicality to the game. They brought the execution. One thing that I saw with them on Friday night that I hadn't saw before or saw the week before, which I haven't saw Lamar but twice now, was they executed what they did. They have a lot of misdirection in their offense. They were able to use that to their advantage. I mean, there were times that I was shooting the highlights that you would see me pan away from the play for just a second, and then I'd find it. And so I think that Lamar really came out. They did a good job. Yeah, we're ready for him, Maddie. Just
You got some highlights?
Go ahead and throw them on there.
Yeah, let's see 'em.
But anyway, Lamar did a good job. I think at the point of attack, they were physical. Man, this was a physical ball game. I mean, just, there was one play where Eli Roberson sprinted off, and he ran out of bounds, and a guy from Lamar smacks him out of bounds, gets his 15. And, Lamar's got the white fence around the field, which is kind of a staple of what Lamar is, and that he knocked part of that fence down. So, I mean, man, it was a head-knocking ball game. One thing that I thought about Lamar and just in the game in general, Atkins really came out and attacked. There was a series down here at the very end, either the beginning of the second quarter or the end of the first quarter. Atkins was about to score the second time on their second possession, and Lamar was able to stop them inside the 5-yard line, and Atkins had to kick a field goal. Well, you saw that the missed extra point to begin with, so that ended up playing into a factor into the game. And then the missed field goal also played a factor into the game, and it ended up being to where the score was off enough that Atkins scored 4 times, Lamar scored 4 times, but the 4 that Lamar scored were all touchdowns and extra points, and it ended up being that was the difference in the ball game. But it looked like Atkins was in control of the ball game at first. I thought Atkins actually might run away with the ball game. I actually spent time on both sidelines. I was on the first and third quarter at Lamar, second and fourth quarter at Atkins. It was very interesting to see the things that each coach was doing, making adjustments. But, man, at the end of the day, Lamar just made a couple more plays than Atkins did. I mean, I really felt like these were 2 very evenly matched teams going into it. It proved to be that, and, man, I mean, they were popping some heads. It was just a really good high school football game to watch.
Well, and it sounds like it was one of those games, as I mentioned, that nobody got cheated. Everybody kind of got their money's worth at least.
That was a controversial play, by the way, right there.
He actually caught it, and they acted like
I don't know. I mean, I was away. There's the field goal that we're talking about. I was away from that play, so I couldn't tell you. But he definitely had both feet on in, and it was Trey Davis. Trey Davis catching a lot of balls. But, the ref was right there on it. So, I mean, obviously, he had a better view of it than I did. But that was one of the bigger plays in the ball game. That instance right there, that was a big hit right there, too.
Brian's like, I love my highlights.
Man, it was good. It was a good game. But, that play there that they didn't score the touchdown, that ended up being a huge play in the game. And, of course, it was early in the second quarter, so you didn't know it at the time, but that really could have been the difference in the ballgame.
Yeah. Well, both, as we mentioned before, we really like both of these coaching staffs. They did a great job. Oh, what a catch. What a play.
Kenan Martin had a great year this year.
Yeah, he did. I mean, Atkins played well. I mean, Lamar, obviously, home field advantage in a game this close probably matters, having that home crowd behind you. Just a few both of these coaches are good. Just a few coaching decisions here or there. Just guys making plays. Sometimes it's just a guy making a kick or whatever it might be. So, Lamar, I'm just as a fan of local teams and being from around here and knowing some of these kids from Lamar especially, I'm just glad that they didn't come out and play poor after the Charleston and Boonville losses.
Yeah.
They were down a little bit, and it was good to see. As we mentioned in our that guy just gets after it.
I'm telling you.
It was good to see, as we talked about in previous episodes, the team before might have beat them again, that kind of thing. It was good to see that they were able to wipe the slate clean and come out and play the way they did earlier.
That's very impressive. That was probably the most impressive part of the ball game, that they were able to wipe those 2 losses out. Because, look, Atkins, even though they had lost 3 games coming into it, Atkins is a very good football team.
Yes, they are.
They really are a good football team. This was a very tough matchup in the first round of the playoffs. That was the game-winning interception, by the way, right there.
Zach West, I like that boy. He goes to my church.
But man, it was something. It was really something to behold there. Just a great.
Look at the crowd shots, Brad. You did good.
Great small town ball game, man.
Yeah.
It was just a great small town ball game, and here's the good old victory formation. You don't ever want to miss that one. That's for sure.
Everybody likes the victory.
Everybody likes the victory formation. But, Lamar, now they've got Harding Academy, which, Harding Academy, you hear that name and you think, well, they're probably a little bit better than Atkins. I'm not totally sure. I'm not totally sure that they didn't beat a better team than Harding Academy in this game, and we'll see though. But Lamar is one of 2 teams that are going to be hosting this week in the area, and so Lamar, I think of all the teams that we've got left in the area, Lamar is the team that has the best chance of moving forward into the next round.
Wow. Well, we need to hit some of these other games, but we need to take a break before we do it. We'll be back right after this, and we'll talk about the rest of the games on the Bringus Steakhouse scoreboard. Stay with us.
Find new roads at Phil Wright Autoplex in Russellville and see why so many people are buying the right way, like up to $7,500 off the 2019 Chevrolet Equinox. Or drive away in a 2018 Chevrolet Cruze starting at $14,599. Find new roads with the 2018 Chevrolet Malibu up to $6,000 off. And don't miss up to $14,500 off the 2018 Chevrolet Silverado for 43 years. Phil Wright Autoplex has been the right place to buy, and there's a reason why we've been awarded the best new car dealership in the area for the past 9 years straight.
Your little superhero is amazing. And as a parent, you want nothing more than for your kids to be safe, eat right, and grow up happy and healthy. That's why when your children face a strong-armed enemy like illness or injury, you want to place them in the hands of equally amazing caregivers. Caregivers like the pediatricians at Millard Henry Clinic. Our board-certified specialists have their own incredible set of superhero skills and insight, so that no matter what your kids face, you can trust our team to provide them with quality, compassionate care. In the quest to keep kids healthy in the Arkansas River Valley, every child needs to have a Millard Henry Clinic pediatrician in their corner, even superheroes. For an appointment, call Millard Henry Clinic.
Welcome back into River Valley Touchdowns. We're hoping we can get these coaches to call us and be a part of the show. Some tech difficulties as far as phones working or not working, but thank you for being a part of today's show and every other show throughout the football season. Congratulations, as we mentioned, to Lamar on winning our St. Mary's Regional Health System Game of the Week. The other games, Brad, that we wanted to hit, obviously Hector didn't have a game. They were playing against Mount Ida this week in Mount Ida. We were driving through there during that game. There was not it was one of those last one out, turn the lights off kind of things, because there was not a soul in Mount Ida as we were driving through to Nashville. But they were all at the game. Mount Ida won big, and now Hector, show them what they won. Hector gets Mount Ida after a bye. But we've got Danville, who is playing now Smackover, Morrilton playing Blytheville, and who was it? Dardanelle's playing Stuttgart. But Dardanelle won on Friday night. Maddie, if you will you play that, pull that scoreboard back up so we can go over some of these scores once more and then get a little bit of information from them. Danville with the 55-12 win over Yellville Summit. Brad, I don't know if you had any information about that game or any stats. I know we were going to talk with Coach Crane.
I got nothing on it, but they did exactly what I expected them to do. Like I told
you. That was your lock of the week, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yellville Summit coming in, had they been in another conference, would not have made the playoffs. And, Danville did exactly what they were supposed to do when they were supposed to do it. So I'm telling you, I know Danville's going to be the underdog going into this next game, but Danville can win that.
I was going to say, are you going to go out there?
I'm definitely not going to predict it because look, if they got a better draw, they could move on, no doubt about it. This is going to be, you're talking about Smackover's way down there. It's a long trip. I don't know how they're going to handle all that travel and all that stuff, but I just think right now Danville's not going to be scared of them. They're going to be able to move the ball on. But, man, Smackover's a very, very good football team. In my opinion, right now, the best in 3A.
We're going to jump around just a little bit, but obviously that Robinson loss, Pottsville, that's a tough way to end the season for them. But as we mentioned earlier, they made the playoffs. They had all the things go wrong for them before the season even started, and they were able to make the playoffs. So just as a general rule, you don't like to down teams after a playoff loss, but they did make the playoffs, and it was a rough one for them, a rough way for Pottsville to end their season. But as we mentioned, there were some positives and some things to take forward from there.
So the question for Pottsville now going forward is, that Connor Carpenter is the kid that is going to step in as their quarterback most likely. They ran a lot of different stuff with Connor than they did with Jones. I think the Jones kid was the quarterback for him. What are they going to do going forward? They've been entrenched in the dead T. Carpenter's probably more of a passing shotgun quarterback, so it's going to be interesting to see what Pottsville does in this offseason.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough one or a one to watch at least. Dardanelle, Jonesboro, Westside, 31-22. The Dardanelle Sand Lizards get the win. Brad, do we
got
have
a
some
small
highlights?
highlight package of that
See a little bit of that game there. Obviously, we weren't able to watch Dardanelle get that win, but you said, Brad, in our preview that Dardanelle was going up against one of the best rushing attacks in the entire state.
Yes.
And it looked like that's what Jonesboro Westside did pretty well to hang in this game.
They brought the rushing attack with them. I think Dardanelle had a little bit of time adjusting to it at the very first of the game. Dardanelle is a little bit of a slow start team, but man, when they get it going, they get it going. They scored 22 points in the fourth quarter against Westside. They were down 14-3 in this game. I know that the Dardanelle faithful was getting very, very nervous in this game. I was going back and forth with Tara Freeman, and again, thanks to Tara Freeman for giving us some of these highlights. The thing about us is we just don't have enough people to get to all of these 11 teams. So, when you can give us highlights, especially Hector and Dardanelle have been wonderful about getting us highlights when we weren't able to be there. We so appreciate it. But,
Absolutely.
Blake Chambers was a kid that really had a big game for Dardanelle. I've been trying to run the stats down. I know we actually have it in this package that he had a 45-yard touchdown run. But, again, Dardanelle was in trouble for a bit, but Dardanelle was able to overcome, and now they get to move on to I don't know if they would like for me to call this, but the Josh Price Bowl, the Dardanelle former Dardanelle coach, Dardanelle versus Stuttgart in Dardanelle.
Is it in Dardanelle?
No, I'm sorry, in Stuttgart.
Okay, I was gonna say.
It's going to be a slobber knocker for sure.
It's going to be a slobber knocker. Jim Ross will be proud to hear that. So congratulations to Dardanelle for the playoff win there. I hope these have looped and that I missed it, but we're going to have to move on to another game here. Morrilton Parkview, probably the best game of the week. I don't know, that Lamar Atkins game, give it a run for its money, but 28-26, Morrilton didn't look good for them early on. Little Rock Parkview was ahead most of that game. Morrilton was able to pull it out.
And, again, Jacoby Criswell's a guy we talk about quite a bit. He had 218 yards of total offense. That means that Little Rock Parkview actually did a very good job on him. He threw for 109, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He ran for 109 on 16 attempts. Xavier Clemens, another guy we talk about quite a bit. 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. He knows how to find that end zone. And then also Terry Franklin and Reggie Toney both found the end zone. Franklin with 3 catches for 36 yards and a touchdown. Toney, 32 yards on 2 catches and a touchdown. But again, look, Brad Bolding is a guy that is a very well-known and very good coach here in the state. He's very well-versed. He was the coach at North Little Rock. Things came up. I don't know what happened here and there, but I do know that the Little Rock School District gave him an opportunity to come to Parkview. Parkview is a program on the rise. This was a tough matchup for Morrilton. They were able to overcome. Now the interesting thing is going to be this. Morrilton has a great shot at beating Blytheville, but Blytheville is a long trip from Morrilton. Blytheville is a long trip from everything that's not Tennessee or Kentucky or Missouri.
Blytheville's a long trip from anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not living in Tennessee, Kentucky, or Missouri,
ride at nowhere and you get out to Blytheville.
It's long. So Morrilton, if Morrilton wins, Little Rock Christian wins, Little Rock Christian comes to Morrilton for that semifinal matchup there that we will have somebody there for that.
Yeah.
If Morrilton loses, they're done. If Morrilton wins and Texarkana wins, Morrilton goes from Blytheville one week to Texarkana the next week and have a semifinal matchup. I still like Morrilton's chances, man. They've got a great opportunity. And, that 5A is pretty deep this year, Mark. Harrison's very good. Pulaski Academy, obviously Pulaski Academy is Pulaski Academy. Morrilton's very good. Texarkana's very good. Little Rock Christian is very good. But I think as far as draw goes, Morrilton got as good a draw as they could get.
Absolutely. And looking at the last game that we need to cover tonight, Russellville falls 31-29 to Sylvan Hills. We mentioned earlier how, anything can happen. It's the playoffs. It may be a motivation thing. It may have just been a lack of focus, lack of execution. game plan may not have been up to snuff, but to lose to a 3-7 team at home in the playoffs, there's no way of painting that in a good light.
No, there's really not. There's not a lot to say about it. Thanks to Bill Harshaw, by the way, again for these highlights.
A great job with highlights.
I mean, he really does a great job with highlights, and man, Bill is totally on board with what we're doing.
Really
here,
appreciate Bill.
Yeah, really do. But yeah, man, this was a game that we expected. We really expected to be talking about Russellville again next week.
Absolutely,
I mean, let's just be honest about it. We thought that Russellville had the opportunity, had the edge against Sylvan Hills. I know that Russellville got off to a tough start. Sylvan Hills had the lead early. It was a pretty low-scoring game for the most part up until the very end, and then things kind of got going. And, Russellville was able to come back on Sylvan Hills but was unable to overcome the rough start, I believe. I think it was just one of those games that really – Russellville just never got into the rhythm, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was that they necessarily overlooked Sylvan Hills, but you would have thought that Russellville defense, as you're looking at right now, would have been able to hold Sylvan Hills to less than 31 points.
Yeah.
And I know they went into 2 overtimes and all that, but you just thought Russellville would. They've been that defense has been tough all year long. They gave up 31 to a team that was 3-7 again. A game and that we felt like Russellville should have won.
Absolutely. And looking through the Cyclone booth stats here on the stat sheet, they outgained them, had more first downs, had the same amount of turnovers, had 22 more plays, Russellville did, had just 1 more penalty but for 2 fewer yards. Time of possession was a little bit in Sylvan Hills' favor, but really there's nothing on the stat sheet that would tell you this is why this game went the way it did. Now, obviously, you don't want Red Adkins to have to throw the ball 37 times, and he also rushed the ball 21 times, so he had the ball in his hand 58 different opportunities as far as offense goes.
Give me a Jaden Palmer update on that one.
Jaden Palmer had 16 catches for 159 yards.
Okay, so that was one thing I was going to say. Is were they able to take Jaden Palmer out? Because
nope.
I said before, I felt like that Jaden Palmer might. Wow, what a play there! I felt like that Jaden Palmer is the best player in the area. I don't think there was anything in this game to prove me wrong.
No,
okay?
You're right.
16 catches again. He ended up on the season. He ended up with 75 catches and. I believe he topped 1,000 yards.
He's a stud. Man.
Again, it was one of those one of those guys that you just felt like that colleges aren't quite taking enough stock in.
Well, they will soon if they hadn't yet. If they don't know,
right.
Now they know. So yeah, it was just. I mean, there's nothing. If you look at the stat sheet, offensively, you score 29 points, 30 points. At home, you expect to win, but to fall 31-29. Obviously, the defense carried them a lot of times this year, three different games, and on a night where the defense gave up 31 points, you really kind of hope that the offense can pick them up and get it going, and they just weren't able to get that last 2-point conversion.
Just looking at getting an eye on the stats myself, one thing that jumps out to me is that that Sylvan Hills was able to get 232 yards rushing. That's kind of surprising. They only had 236 total yards for the game. So they were able to hold Sylvan Hills down on the passing. Now, there was a play here, and I don't know if it's played or not, where it looked like that they had the forward progress stopped. They had a pile. The kid breaks out of the pile and breaks off like an 80-yard run.
Yeah, it showed just a moment ago.
Yeah, it looks like that one should have been dead.
I would be very upset if I were the coaches from Russellville because that ball, the pile was basically stand still for quite a while, and people kind of peel off, and the guy just keeps running and scores. It's kind of I don't know. I didn't like the way that one was not blown dead.
Yeah, and that one, it obviously didn't play into the Cyclones' favor, especially in a game that close. Like you said, down toward the end of the game, or at the end of the game, Sylvan Hills was able to go in overtime and be able to score the touchdown, get the 2-point conversion. They were able to keep Russellville out, which they were able to pull the upset. Here's the thing that really sticks out to me, if nothing else. You've seen this all the time in sports, where if you allow a team to hang around, a team that is not expected to win the game, and you allow them to hang around, eventually that momentum comes their way. And what a play right there by Atkins. Is that Palmer? I couldn't tell if it was Palmer or not. But, when you allow a team to hang around like they did with Sylvan Hills, you don't put them away early, this is the result. And I think if you're a Cyclone coach, this is the one thing that you preach to these kids in the off season is, guys, we've got to go for the throat when we have the opportunity. Lord, I mean, we've seen it with the Razorbacks so many times in the last 5 or 6 years where you blow the lead or you allow a team to hang around and then they end up winning the game. That's what it looks like happened here in this game.
Well, it's unfortunate for Russellville. It's a bad way to go out if you're one of those seniors. That's just that's a rough all around. So sorry to Russellville fans. I mean, I don't really know what to tell you other than the fact that I know you expected a win. It didn't go that way, and they'll be back next year. So Cyclones fans, stick with them. I'm sure that they'll get things rolling again. It stinks for those seniors, though. I really think that that's the worst part about it. But they'll be back. So we got to take a break. When we come back, you're going to notice a mysterious emptiness in this studio. Brad's going to take care of you, and he's going to talk with some of these coaches and some folks who can give us a little bit more information about these games as we tie them up. So thank you guys for being with us. For me, they'll be back right after this.
Visit Cobb Jai in historic downtown Russellville for some of the best Thai and Asian cuisine in the region. With outstanding steak, pho, curry, and more, you're sure to find something savory to suit your palate. Great service and friendly staff round out the authentic eating experience. Stop by today. You'll be glad you did. Cobb Jai Thai Restaurant.
Experience Buick and experience 43 years at Phil Wright Autoplex in Russellville and see why so many people have been buying the right way. Hurry in for incredible savings like up to $7,000 off the 2018 Buick Regal Sportsback, or drive away the popular 2018 Buick Encore with up to $7,500 off, or up to $9,000 off the 2018 Buick Enclaves. Experience Buick and experience the right place to buy at Phil Wright Autoplex. There's a reason why we've been awarded the best new car dealership in the area for the past 9 years straight. Exit 84, just off I-40, Russellville.
We get it. Working out can be confusing. Here at Focus Fitness, we take the guesswork out. Real training, real results. Focus Fitness. Start your transformation. Make that short drive to Russellville and see why so many people are buying the right way at Phil Wright Autoplex in Russellville. Hurry in for incredible savings like up to $12,000 off the 2018 GMC Yukons and up to $8,000 off the 2018 GMC Acadias. Ride in comfort in the GMC 2018 Terrains with up to $7,500 off. Hurry in for $14,500 off the 2018 GMC Sierras. Phil Wright Autoplex is the right place to buy, and there's a reason why we've been awarded the best auto dealership in the area for up to 9 years straight. Exit 84, just off 540, Russellville.
Your little superhero is amazing. And as a parent, you want nothing more than for your kids to be safe, eat right, and grow up happy and healthy. That's why when your children face a strong-armed enemy like illness or injury, you want to place them in the hands of equally amazing caregivers. Caregivers like the pediatricians at Millard Henry Clinic. Our board-certified specialists have their own incredible set of superhero skills and insight, so that no matter what your kids face, you can trust our team to provide them with quality, compassionate care. In the quest to keep kids healthy in the Arkansas River Valley, every child needs to have a Millard Henry Clinic pediatrician in their corner, even superheroes. For an appointment, call Millard Henry Clinic.
And welcome back to River Valley Touchdowns. Mark has had to step out here on this Monday playoff edition here of River Valley Touchdowns, but I do have Coach DJ Crane on with us today. Coach Crane, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Man, always love to have the Danville folks on. We got a pretty good following out there, so we're always glad to have Little Johns on. But, Coach, big victory over the Wheelville Summit Panthers on Friday night. Tell us a little bit about that game.
Well, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was our best game of the year, but we did enough. We did enough to win the game and put them away there late.
Okay. 55-12 was the final score there against the Panthers. Of course, I keep up with, we try to keep up with the ball. I know that Panthers probably weren't the strongest team that you could have played on this first round, but you were able to take care of that matchup and do the things that you were supposed to do to win that ball game.
Yeah, they were a fairly talented team. They had a couple of skill guys that were really, really good, and with us, we're not just overly talented in the skill position, but our kids are strong and physical and play sound. So they kind of took advantage of some of the things that some of our weaknesses, and luckily our kids play so hard and do things right that we ended up getting them there in the end.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about some of the guys that stood out. You said you had some stats in front of you.
Yeah, Luke Callahan he's a defensive back. He had 3 interceptions,
wow,
1 return for a touchdown. So he had his best night of the year. And, TJ Lewis, 10 carries for 142 yards and a touchdown. He also threw for a touchdown. So he had his best night as a Little John. Preston Donald was threw for 137 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, he had a good night, and the offense totaled 486 yards.
Wow.
So we had a good night offensively. We did turn the ball over a little bit, which is uncharacteristic of us late usually. So that's something we're really going to need to polish up before we go into to smack over. But
yeah.
And penalties, kind of hampered us a little bit, which is something that was uncharacteristic for us. And we just hadn't had hardly any penalties for the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah,
we had more penalties in Friday than we had the last 6 games combined. So it was one of them nights, I guess.
Yeah, it was. But glad you were able to take care of the ball game anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just talk a little bit about what you expect this week. Smackover, as far as I can tell, are they the number 1 ranked team in 3A? Is that correct?
It's Boonville, then Smackover.
Boonville, that's right. Boonville is number 1 team, then Smackover. So you're talking about one of the top 2 teams in 3A. What is it that you do to get your team prepared for a team like that?
Oh, we don't really do anything different. It's just a day by day thing with us. It's us being a small 3A school anyway. Most of the time, going deep into the playoffs, you're going to be the underdog anyway. So, it's not something that we talk a lot about. We just get prepared.
Get prepared, and
yeah.
I am really curious about this. And I'm curious about it with all the teams. What do you do for travel when you have to travel that long?
Well, I have a policy that I use, and it's if it's over 2 hours, we're going to stop and have a walkthrough. We'll stop somewhere halfway between and have a walkthrough and eat, and then get back on the bus and go. So I don't know how anybody else does it.
Mm-hmm.
We do it that way, and it works. So it's something I've always done, and it's worked for us, so that's kind of what we do. And we usually leave pretty early.
Yeah.
to make sure that we're not on a bus very long.
I gotcha. But any kind of keys that you have going forward for that game? What are some of the things you feel like you need to do well against Smackover to come out with a victory?
Well, we're not going to be able to match up with them talent-wise, for sure. They're a lot more talented than we are, but I think we can do some things to hurt them offensively, and defensively, I think we can slow them down a little bit. But what we're going to have to do is create some turnovers and get some extra possessions somewhere, whether on special teams or defense, whatever. Creating turnovers, we're going to have to get some extra possessions, and we're going to have to probably slow the game down as much as we can to try to keep it to where we have a chance in the fourth quarter. And if we're in it in the fourth quarter, we'll have a chance to win.
Well, that's usually how it is with the underdog. In fact, we were just talking about Russellville and Sylvan Hills, how we felt like that was kind of the same thing. So you guys going in, you kind of relish that role sometimes as the underdog, got a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. And I know that the Danville Little Johns are not going to be scared. That's one thing I know for sure.
Oh, yeah. And we actually have a really good record against high-ranked teams. Or at least playing really well against teams ranked in the top 1 to 2 over the last several years. So, it's not something we're used to it. We're used to playing in games like that. So, it's just something that, hey, you get a chance to really go out there and prove yourself on Friday. So
That's
our
right.
kids are ready.
That's awesome. Well, glad to hear from you, Coach. Congratulations on the victory, and good luck on Friday night. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to you next week.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks a lot. That was Coach DJ Crane of the Danville Little Johns talking about the victory over the Oval Summit Panthers. I said before it was my lock of the week that Danville would take care of Yellville. They did that in it looks like dominant fashion in a game that it sounds like they didn't play their best game, hampered a little bit by penalties, but was able to come out with the victory over the Panthers. So right now, and of course, this beauty of live, I guess we'll call this TV, quote unquote, I'm going to call Bill Harshaw right now. Bill had eyes on the Russellville and Sylvan Hills game, and we're going to come to Bill right now as we come in here on the Cobb Jai hotline. Bill was there again to witness the 31-29 victory of the Sylvan Hills Bears over the Russellville Cyclones. Bill, thanks for joining us.
You bet.
Bill, let's just talk a little bit about the game. You were there. You had eyes on the game. And, again, a little bit of a disappointment here in the River Valley that Russellville isn't able to move on to that second-round game, in a game that probably everybody was pointing to Russellville as a team that should have won the game.
You bet. I mean, you go into this game and you think, Sylvan Hills, they are outmatched, outclassed. You know what to expect from Sylvan Hills. They're going to run the football. And offensively, you know exactly what the Cyclones are going to want to do to them. We're going to try to throw it, and we're going to throw it a lot. And I got into the locker room before the game began, and that's exactly what the coaches were telling the players is, hey, we can stop this run. We're going to have a good chance here tonight. And so there's a lot of focus on stopping the run defensively. And then, they had scripted out the 3 first plays that they wanted to start with. And said, hey, look, if they man up against us, we're going to line them up. And that was the game plan going into the game. Things didn't go the way that the Cyclones had wanted, unfortunately.
What is it that you saw that gave Russellville trouble that the Sylvan Hills Bears did?
The one thing that Sylvan Hills was doing defensively to give us problems Friday night is defensive coverage was they did a very good job of hiding the coverage package. They would bring blitzes from the outside and try to catch us off guard. And it was just hard for us to establish a rhythm offensively because of the way that the defense was hiding its blitz packages and putting pressure on Rhett Atkins. And Rhett, there toward the last part of the game, what he wanted to do is bring the game into his hands. He don't care if he's going to run it. He didn't care if he's going to have to throw it. He even lined up as a receiver multiple times. And so Rhett put the onus on his own shoulders there toward the second half of the game and was trying to will the Cyclones to victory. And then defensively, Cyclones had a really tough time stopping the running back core of Sylvan Hills. They were big. I mean, they had 2 or 3 guys that were just incredibly massive for Sylvan Hills, and it was really hard to establish dominance over them.
Yeah, it looks like Shawan Esteen had 96 yards on 12 carries. No touchdowns, though, but you had Emil McCoy, who had a touchdown, just looking here, and then Shawan Esteen, he only had 4 yards receiving, but, well, I was going to say he had 2 touchdowns, but that's actually the long here. I'm trying to look at where our touchdowns come from. It looked like Emil McCoy, he had 4 touchdowns on the game. Of course, the game went into overtime. Bill was tied at 16. Give us a little bit of a walkthrough what happened from the time that regulation ended till Sylvan Hills ended up winning the ball game.
Well, let's back up just a hair, if you will. They're going toward the end of regulation. Sylvan Hills had the ball driving and got down inside the red zone through an interception. Russellville takes over and has a chance to go down and win as time is expiring. Line up for a long, I want to say, if my memory serves me correctly, about a 44-yard field goal. The wind at our back. And he had made one just 4 yards shorter the week before. So we knew with the wind conditions, it might work. Unfortunately, I think it was cold. You were out there. You know how cold it was. Just incredibly cold. And I think that may have played a factor in the handling of the snap. So as a result, it's a high snap, had problems getting the hold down. We fumble the football, kick it around a few times. That ends regulation. So, I mean, we had a chance there at the end to kick a field goal and win it. Going into overtime, in the first overtime was rather uneventful. We both scored touchdowns and extra points. Then we go forward into the second overtime. Sylvan Hills takes the ball first, goes down and scores, and lines up to kick a PAT. Now, Mark mentioned earlier that they went for 2, and that's not entirely accurate. The end result's the same. They were kicking the PAT and a bad snap, fire. And somehow it managed to evade every Cyclone on the field to get in for that 2-point conversion. And so Russellville gets the ball knowing exactly what we have to do. And on the play, we actually sent Red Atkins out on the right-hand side. And of course, Red Atkins, incredibly tall, talented guy. And he is towering over the corner that's covering him. And Red Atkins scored the end zone. That's what's going to happen here. And that's exactly what happened. Right. They threw it to Red Atkins, easy touchdown. But now Russellville has to get the 2-point conversion to keep the game alive. And we snap the ball, try a little option play to the right side, I should say. And he gets knocked out around the 2-yard line. And it was a crushing defeat for the Russellville Cyclones.
Just talking a lot about Red Atkins, looking at his totals, he had 301 total yards of offense, 233 passing, 68 rushing, and 2 total touchdowns. So he had a wonderful game in his last game as a Cyclone. Going to be interesting to see what looks Red Atkins is going to get college-wise because he is such a dynamic athlete and really reminds me a little bit of the old Matt Jones at Arkansas, where you could throw him in there at quarterback and he could run at quarterback, but also at the receiver spot and be able to be effective there. So I'll be interested to see what happens with him. He had a great game. Jaden Palmer had 16 catches, 159 yards. Now, Bill, you've gotten to watch the Cyclones a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about Jaden and as far as what he did on Friday night?
Well, I'll tell you, on Friday night, Jaden is incredibly important to this Russellville offense. If he can get open and get a ball to him, he's going to catch it. That's just the type of athleticism that he has. And more importantly than that is the yards after the catch. He has this knack about him where after he catches the ball, he's going to try his best to make something happen, and most of the time does. So it's not only exciting to watch him go up to get the ball, but you're also excited to see what's going to happen after the catch.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had a great year. I've called him the player of the year in this area. I know we've had some really good players this year. Cody Day of Hector being one of those guys. But right now, if you had to ask me who I would award the player of the year to, I got to give it to Jaden Palmer for the importance that he had of the Cyclone team. He ended up with 75 catches and just over 1,000 yards, which is just an incredible season for Jaden. And Jaden actually missed a game, so he had 10 games in which he made that happen. So Jaden had an incredible year for the Cyclones. Well, Bill, man, we really appreciate you coming on with us, and we'll definitely talk to you again here soon. And I need to actually talk to you here after this show about moving forward. So anyway, I'll get with you, and we'll talk a little bit later, okay?
All right, sounds good, Brad.
Thanks a lot. Bill Harshaw here, River Valley Now correspondent, River Valley Touchdowns correspondent, does a great job for us shooting these highlights. If you ever see highlights that are probably the best highlights that we have, those are Bill's. So we're going to come back. We're going to put a bow on this thing, as Mark would say. We're going to tie it up at the end here. We're going to talk just a little bit about the second-round playoff matchups that we have. Hector Wildcats, if you've been waiting, we're going to talk about you here in just a minute. So we'll be back right after this.
Find new roads at Philwright Autoplex in Russellville and see why so many people are buying the right way, like up to $7,500 off the 2019 Chevrolet Equinox. Or drive away in a 2018 Chevrolet Cruze starting at $14,599. Find new roads with the 2018 Chevrolet Malibu up to $6,000 off. And don't miss up to $14,500 off the 2018 Chevrolet Silverado for 43 years. Philwright Autoplex has been the right place to buy, and there's a reason why we've been awarded the best new car dealership in the area for the past 9 years straight.
Your little superhero is amazing. And as a parent, you want nothing more than for your kids to be safe, eat right, and grow up happy and healthy. That's why when your children face a strong-armed enemy like illness or injury, you want to place them in the hands of equally amazing caregivers. Caregivers like the pediatricians at Millard Henry Clinic. Our board-certified specialists have their own incredible set of superhero skills and insight, so that no matter what your kids face, you can trust our team to provide them with quality, compassionate care. In the quest to keep kids healthy in the Arkansas River Valley, every child needs to have a Millard Henry Clinic pediatrician in their corner, even superheroes. For an appointment, call Millard Henry Clinic.
We're back for the final segment of River Valley Touchdowns in our Monday playoff edition. We'd like to remind you that we will have another Monday playoff edition next week. And, we're just kind of filling it out from here to find out how many more that we'll have. We were going to talk to you a little bit about the second round playoff matchups that we've got here. We've got two home teams left. Lamar and Harding Academy will be battling it out, and Hector and Mount Ida will also be battling it out. Both of those are home games in the area. We're going to go ahead and call it now. Our St. Mary's Health Systems game of the week will be the Hector Wildcats versus Mount Ida. And if I had their mascot, I'd give you that as well. Anyway, Hector will be taking on Mount Ida. Now, the thing about this matchup is Mount Ida has been playing deep into the playoffs now for several years, got a couple state championships under their belt. This is a tall task for the Wildcats, but as always, you want to have them at home. And so I know that Hector's glad to have that. They also have a bye week, or have had a bye week, I should say, which will help them going into this game as far as getting people healthy, helping the banks, the bumps, the bruises, those types of things. So Hector is going to get their opportunity against one of the big dogs in 2A against Mount Ida. Lamar is taking on Harding Academy. I've said this, that this is probably the best chance for a River Valley team to move on. Not to say anything that any of you will lose, but I feel like of the teams that are left, Lamar is probably going to be a favorite in this game at home. And Maddie told me it's the Mount Ida Lions. I should have been able to tell you that, but it is the Mount Ida Lions. But Lamar, Harding Academy always comes in with a high-powered, potent offense. They were able to beat Greenland the other night, 28-14. So Lamar playing against Greenland, similar or a common opponent. Lamar had a little bit of trouble with Greenland, but at the same time, this is going to be a little bit of a different matchup. I do believe that Harding does bring in a running back that has rushed for over 1,500 yards. So as much as Harding Academy will throw it, they do bring a rushing attack that is going to be potent. As you heard before, Danville will be taking on Smackover. They're going to be making the trip all the way down there to around El Dorado, almost to the Louisiana line, where they'll take on the Smackover Buckaroos. Now, I could tell you Buckaroos, but I couldn't tell you Lions or something about that. I don't know what's up with that. But anyway, Danville taking on one of the better teams in 3A in the Smackover Buckaroos. But one thing that I've said more often than not about Danville and those Yale County boys, that they're not going to be scared going down there to take on Smackover. Speaking of Yale County and not being scared, Dardanelle is going to be traveling to Stuttgart, where they're going to take on the Rice Birds, and they are not going to be scared as well. And this is an interesting matchup because just a few years back, Josh Price was leading the Dardanelle Sand Lizards. Their program led it for years. He left to go to Stuttgart, and now Dardanelle will travel to Stuttgart, where two former coaching mates will be taking on each other as Phil Vega and his Dardanelle Sand Lizards will take on Stuttgart. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. Dardanelle, I look for them to give a lot of fight against Stuttgart. It's going to be a good matchup, and we're hoping that Dardanelle can come out with a victory. Finally, left in the River Valley, and probably the team that has the best shot of making it all the way to Little Rock is the Morrilton Devil Dogs. They're taking on the Blytheville Chickasaws. They're driving all the way over to Blytheville. Like I said, it's not close to anything unless you live in Missouri, Kentucky, or Tennessee. So, or even Illinois. There's places in Illinois that are closer to Blytheville than what Morrilton is. I can assure you of that. So Morrilton's got a long trip. The Devil Dogs are going to have their hands full against the 5A East champion Chickasaws of Blytheville, but also at the same time, I look for Jacoby Criswell to have his day. He has been very effective since he has come back into the fold there for the Devil Dogs. Have we lost? Oh, I thought we might have lost it for a second. Criswell has come back, and he has done a very good job for the Devil Dogs, and he had 218 yards of total offense last week. I mean, he's been putting up very big numbers. Parkview did a very good job on him. It'll be interesting to see what the Chickasaws do against him, a guy that has SEC offers from Ole Miss, from Mississippi State, Georgia, and, of course, Arkansas. So he's definitely a different level of player. When you have that type of guy on the field, you always have a chance. So we are going to be bringing you again another Monday edition of the River Valley Touchdowns. We will also be – there you go. How long is that, Maddie? More than 3.5 hours and over 200 miles. It seems like it's going to be – it seems like it's even longer than that if you've ever been to Blytheville before. Anyway – Morrilton is going to have that opportunity to come back, and if things fall right, Morrilton will have a home game. That being said, again, we're going to bring you a preview on Thursday of these second round matchups. We will bring that to you on Thursday, so I want you to mark your calendars and be ready to tune in to us on Thursday. We will bring that to you. Second round matchups again, Lamar and Harding Academy, Hector and Mount Ida, Danville and Smackover, Morrilton and Blytheville, and Dardanelle and Stuttgart. So we will be back Thursday with more River Valley Touchdowns coverage. We will be back next Monday with a recap show, and hopefully we will still have several teams in this area that will still be in it. But as the playoffs go, obviously somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose, and that means that at the end of the day, the season is over. And so hopefully we will have that to bring you next week and beyond. So for Mark, who's already gone, for Maddie, who is back there, we want to say thank you to everybody that has tuned in and that will tune in, and we will see you on Thursday.